Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 56, titled NHL Draft 2020. I am your host, Sam Wu, and Nick, this is a big podcast, but I have a question for you. Could you tap your microphone real quick? Okay, your microphone's working. I just want to apologize for our late start to this podcast because we were accidentally I was producing a podcast before. We were accidentally broadcasting on a beauty network. Whoops. So my hair's doing fine right now, just making sure everything is working. This is the State of Fan Address, episode 56. We're going to be talking about the NHL Draft, the 2020 NHL Draft coming up. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Nick Villano, the Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief. We have a great guest coming on via Skype call. Josh Bell of the Hockey Writers, draft expert. No, he is our central scouting of the night. We're going to get some tips from him, and also want to thank the fans joining in on Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, Twitch, both on the Let's Go Devils podcast, social media pages, and on the Primetime Radio Network as we're simulcasting, all powered by Nova Product Design. Nick, you want to fight me? You want to fight me? Because you were really wanting to fight me before this podcast, and I really blew it when we were broadcasting on the Beauty Network somewhere in cyberspace. But do you really want to fight me right now on the State of the Fan Address, episode 56?
Yeah, I'm going to divorce you like an Olsen twin, Sam. I swear to God. No, we got to talk about the new suggestion that's been going around social media, and because we're on a beauty network, we're only going to be able to talk for a couple minutes on this. But we have these doctor suggestions. According to TSN's Ryan Rishog, the suggestions from a doctor about the NHL season includes full face shields, no fighting, no scrums after whistles, social distancing coaches, and separating the wingers on the face-off. So, Sam, I know you're a big old school guy, so we got to start with the fighting.
Wait, hold on a sec. Are you serious? What you just said? Because I saw a meme out there. I thought that was a joke.
No, this is from TSN. Ryan Rishog is good. He's a good reporter. We should probably try to get him on one day. But no, he's.
I'm not. I just saw a meme somewhere, yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, fighting, blah blah. Somebody's trying to cause trouble. I thought there was some troll on the internet. Really?
Listen,
so is that what?
I will tell you this: that Bill Daly doesn't think. Bill Daly was asked, the deputy commissioner. He says he doesn't think that drastic changes like that are necessary. And I agree to a point, but here's where I don't agree, Sam, is I see a lot of people saying, if that's what it takes, then cancel the season. It's going to be things like this that they're going to have to do. It's going to be adjustments. It's going to be taking precautions. We need to keep these guys safe over everything. So if they say no fighting, then don't fight. It's one season. It's not even a season. It's a playoffs. And Sam, how many fights were in the playoffs last year?
Nick,
not many.
Nick. Let me just put things into perspective on this because this is the first I'm hearing this as that was true. Number one, I think overall across the board since the 80s, fighting has been down. But as soon as this thing, what you're talking about, now I'm not going to belittle why they're saying this, okay? But what I find fascinating right now is how do you implement this properly? Because it's human nature and it's hockey player nature. If you take away something from somebody or try to control something, even though with good intent, you're going to You're going to do completely the opposite. I would expect fighting to actually go up. And what if you do fight? And what do you get? 10 minutes for not social distancing? And again, I'm not trying to make fun of it, but I hate to be Bill Daly and Gary Bettman right now and the league. Like, how do you make that adjustment to keep the players safe? And then there are probably some players with families, obviously, are kind of like, hey guys, can we just cancel the season? It's not safe. I don't know. But I think there are probably parameters and protocol that they have to follow very strictly. But I'm just thinking, like, okay, say if hockey players are emotional. Yes, I know there's no fans in the arena, but I mean, how do you enforce that? What, give them a 10-game suspension for fighting? During this time, I don't know.
Yeah, that part. I mean, obviously, this wasn't a hockey expert. This was, some kind of scientist, some kind of infectious diseases person who gave his recommendations. And obviously, a doctor is going to err on the side of caution because his life is on the way he makes his living is the medical side. So if he's saying open everything, then and then they do, and then it goes wrong, then he's going to look worse than if he says keep everything closed, and then they open it, it does well. So that's just kind of the mindset, and I understand that. Trust me, I have to deal with this 12 hours a day right now, so it's fine. I get it. My biggest problem is, Sam, is the people who say they would rather have no hockey at all than to have these rules in place. I will take any hockey I can get right now. And if I have to watch my guys wear face shields and not fight, first of all, I'm not that big on fighting. Fighting's fine. I'm not one of those people who think that it needs to get banned and they need to stop it right now, because you're right, it's down because people know the impacts of concussions. And I think that you're not seeing the fights where at least I guess you do still sometimes see it, so that there are some issues with it, but you don't see it as much where a guy gets hit to the point where he just collapses, and that those are those head injuries that are problematic. So I don't think that it's something that needs to be on the docket where you completely take it out. And I admit that taking it out and it not being a problem could give them a model to take it out for good. But again, I don't think that should stop them from not playing the league. I don't think that should be the end-all be-all. If they talk to multiple experts and they all say these closed quarters is going to spread the disease, then I think that they should at least talk about it.
Yeah, well, speaking about talking, I'm going to get our next guest on the horn right now because we just got to a late start, Nick. But I do want to read off Cheryl Miller's comment, which has now been pinned. How will Marchand comply? I thought that was pretty funny.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, obviously licking people right now is not recommended by experts, by medical experts, by your 5-year-old son, by pretty much anybody in this country knows that you probably shouldn't be licking people right now. So I'm thinking that Brad Marchand needs to change his ways just a little bit, maybe not be such a jerk, but we'll see how that works out for him. Oh, he left. Okay. So sorry, I looked away for 2 seconds and Sam was gone, but yeah, no, I will say this, the no spitting on the ice is going to be nearly impossible to regulate. Again, how are you going to punish these players? Is it going to be fines? Is it going to be penalties? I don't think you could fine the players because that has to be collectively bargained, and I don't think the players are going to sign up for more fines. They don't, if I'm remembering correctly, they don't have to collectively bargain new penalties, but are you really going to put somebody in the box for 2 minutes for spitting? I get it. We do have to make these changes. We do have to make changes of some kind. I think a full face shield is actually a smart change. I think that might be the move that It makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you put a full face shield on a guy, and we're talking about the plastic ones, we're not talking about the cage. If you put the full plastic shield on the guy, I feel like that's going to hold a lot of what they might spread in, and with the advancements in testing, and with, I feel like we're at a place where it's looking more and more possible. I mean, the NBA is talking about, starting the one city program pretty soon, and then you got Major League Baseball. The owners came up with a plan. So, I thought we'd have something more by now, Sam. I thought we'd have something more last week. I remember last week I told everybody we were going to have a plan by Friday. It's Wednesday of next week. We still don't have a plan. So I apologize to everybody, Sam. I told them we'd have a plan, and I was wrong.
Well, that's not the first time you've been wrong.
Listen, don't get people started, okay?
I'm just trolling. But hey, guess what? We got a Skype call.
Ooh.
Yeah, we got a Skype call. We got a great guest coming on. His name is Josh Bell. You can find him on Twitter at Joshua Bell THW, which stands for the Hockey Writers. He's a draft expert. Josh, you are on the State of the Fan Address with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Very good. So, Josh, the draft's coming up. I'm going to pass it on to Nick because he is also my draft expert. So let me hand that off to you, Nick, because I'm going to just sit back and take back who the Devils are probably going to pick.
Yeah, I mean, the Devils obviously have probably I want to say it's the biggest draft in their history, but they did have the year where they had the number 3 overall pick and then another first rounder. So, but it's definitely one of the bigger drafts in their history. If the season ends, like it looks like it's on its way to ending, they'll have 6, 10, and possibly 17, depending on how negotiations go. But Josh, we're going to go forth with acting as if they're going to get 6, 10, and 17. We're not going to worry about the lottery. I'm not going to talk about Lafreniere because we've won our share of lotteries. I think we've gotten enough. But let's talk about that 6th pick. The one player I'm seeing a lot of so far is Jamie Drysdale. But I want if you could answer 2 questions for me on Drysdale. One, do you think somebody's going to jump on him and take him earlier? And 2, is he a top defenseman like we've seen in drafts past?
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to go higher than some people think. I'm working on my final rankings right now, and I'm having a tough time putting him in the top 5 just because there's so many forwards. But I have a feeling he could go as high as 3 even. So he might be there, he might not. It really depends on kind of who is in those top 5 picks. But he definitely has the talent. I definitely think he can be the number 1 guy somewhere. He's just so good. That intelligence he has is wonderful to watch.
So you're not worried? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I would take him if he's at 6, obviously, because I think that's good value there. But I am worried about the size issues, especially with the Devils already having a smaller group of defensemen overall. You're not worried about that translating to the NHL game?
I don't think so, no. Normally with smaller guys, you want to just make sure that their skating is good and they have a good hockey sense. They're smart out there. And he is among the best in this draft class at both of those. So I don't really think it's going to be an issue for him. I mean, this is a guy who made the World Juniors in his draft year as a defenseman, which doesn't really happen that often, especially on Team Canada.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and Team Canada was loaded this year, obviously winning gold at World Juniors. Another player that a lot of Devils fans have been talking about is Rossi. He's a player that's probably correct me if I'm wrong, but when I put Stützle, the German, in the top 5, that moved Rossi down to 6. First, do you think that Rossi's going to be available there at 6?
It's definitely likely. I think he's going to be in that 5, 6, 7 range.
So, obviously the Devils probably have a ton of tape on the kid because he plays for the Ottawa 67s. They already have 4 prospects who play for the Ottawa 67s. He made a major jump this year, almost doubling his points. He's a 100-point player for the 67s. Is this a player that's going to – I mean, we hear all the time about the depth of this draft and how good the top is. Is he one of those players that you put in that conversation, like one of those top players that, if not jumping to the NHL this year, he's probably going to be in next year and is going to be elite pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think so for sure. He, like you said, he could very well step into the league next year. I don't think he will. I think he's mentioned that he'll go over to Europe and play professionally over there. So that might be some great development for him. I think he's gotten all he can out of the OHL. But yeah, he's definitely one of those top end guys who can kind of drive the offense, which is exactly what you want.
So you say drive the offense. Like, what am I looking at here? Am I looking at, is Rossi the kind of player that's going to score 35, 40 goals? Or is he the kind of player that's, going to set guys up to score? Is he going to be more of like a playmaking center, or is he going to be a guy that you go to when you need a goal?
I think he can do a little bit of both. The next level, I see him a little bit more as a playmaker, I think. He does have a great shot, but he just does so well at finding guys through traffic and getting to open lanes with his passes. So I think he's a little bit more playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I see the same thing, which gives me a little bit of pause on Rossi, just because I always kind of get sidetracked when it comes to Devils drafts. And look at the needs, and I know you're not supposed to do that. I know you're always supposed to get for the best guy available, but I mean, the Devils have Nolan Foote, who's got a monster shot, and then when you look at the rest of their prospects, it's not, if you want to put Graham Clark in there, he's another guy with a great shot, but I still feel like he's just got a lot of things in his game he's got to work on, he's got to fix, and outside of Foote, I don't know, Michael McLeod ended up not being a great scorer. Joey Anderson never was going to be a great scorer, but he's the kind of guy that he's just not putting the puck in the net like he probably can. And then you got Pavel Zacha not doing the same thing. What's your thought on that? What's your thought on looking at your prospect pool as it is and then drafting based on that?
Yeah, you definitely always kind of preach best player available, but sometimes when you have so many of one thing, you don't need another one, right? So it kind of makes sense in some cases. For the Devils, if you're looking for another shot, even Alexander Holt, probably the best shot in the draft, and he could be right there at that 6th spot. So you kind of look at what you have, look who are the few best players available, and kind of go from there.
So what would you do? Would you go for a player like Rossi, who's probably going to be the best? Although I think something weird's going to happen. I do. I think it's not going to go like the NFL draft, where the NFL draft went chalk for the first 10. I think that the NHL is going to do something weird. But barring something weird happening, would you go chalk best player available, or would you maybe reach a pick or two ahead for a guy you know is not going to be available for your next pick, but you like the fit?
It's going to depend on who's there, but I might. Oh, that's tough. Depends on who's there. So if a guy like Lucas Raymond is there, I don't know if you saw our Hockey Writers mock draft, the round 1. Alex Shaughnessy, he took Lucas Raymond in that spot, and that's a really good fit. He's a winger. He could kind of slide in there next to Hughes one day. That'd be a really, really good choice. But then if you've also got Rossi and Holt there, you kind of have to look at what the need is. So Rossi, you might not need another center down the line. He might be able to shift to the wing, but Holtz and Raymond might fit in better there. So you might choose to go with one of those guys.
So I want to move on to that 10th pick, because I think the 6th pick is going – I think they are going to end up going best player available at the 6th pick, because there's just so much talent in those first 8. I think those first 8, you just kind of – every team's just going to go best player available, because it's just – it's an embarrassment of riches. But when you get to 10 kind of gets a little hairy. I've seen a lot of Askarov, and that's because, I mean, he's being compared to Carey Price, which is kind of insanity. but then I see a lot of other players. Let's start with Askarov. And I'm going to butcher all these names because I'm not European. But with Yaroslav Askarov, is that somebody that you think is worth a top 10 pick?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's in a lot of rankings. He's kind of fitting right in there at 10. I wouldn't even be surprised to see a team grab him a couple picks early. He could be that good. He looks that good now. I really wouldn't be surprised to see him go in the 10.
So last year we heard a lot about Spencer Knight and how good Spencer Knight was, the American goalie. And Florida had him fall, I think it was 16. Don't quote me on that, but it was in that 14 to 16 range. And it was strictly because he's a goalie and you have to wait on goalies. You don't think that's going to scare any teams off?
It could, but Askarov is a guy like you said, the next Carey Price, next Vasilevsky. That's what they're kind of saying, right? He kind of has that ability to steal a game. We saw in the U18s last year. He can absolutely dominate some of the best teams. A lot of people are kind of soured on him after the World Juniors, but you got to remember he's in his draft year as a goaltender. That's a tough spot to be in. I don't think you need to put too much weight into that performance.
Yeah. I'm not worried about his talent because his talent is obviously there. The one thing that might make a lot of Devils fans put their hands up is that they have Mackenzie Blackwood already there. Mackenzie Blackwood's 23 years old. So they have a guy who's shown an elite ability, at least, maybe not elite, statistics or elite results, but at least an elite ability. When it comes to goalie, I know we just talked about best player available, but I think goalie kind of skews the subject a little bit. How would you look at it if you're the Devils and you have this player in Mackenzie Blackwood, and then you have Corey Schneider who might get bought out if you keep him, who knows for how long. Either way, he's not the future of the position. It's Mackenzie Blackwood. How would that skew your opinion of what to do with that pick, say if Askarov is available at 10?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough internal discussion they're going to have. They're kind of have to decide if he's available, if they're going to stick with Blackwood and he's the guy moving forward, or if Blackwood is the guy for the next 2, maybe 3 years, and then they're going to go Askarov. If that's the case, then it's a great pick. He's still probably a couple years off, but he could be the guy, and Blackwood can kind of cover until then. So it's definitely a tough discussion that they're going to have on Blackwood.
Yeah, and it's honestly given me pause. I haven't done my personal mock draft. I've just done a couple of players that are going to be available. So I'm kind of waiting on my mock draft to see if we get that 17 pick, but that 10 pick is the one that's giving me the most pause. One player I will tell you that I will not be putting at 10, no offense, Josh, but no matter what you say, you're not going to sell me on Jake Sanderson, but I'm going to let you try. I don't think he's a good value at 10, but tell me what you think. I don't know what your opinion is on this either way. So tell me if you think that Jake Sanderson is a player that should go 10 or shouldn't.
So I'm going to have him probably in the mid-teens in my final rankings. But he's a guy that I really wouldn't be shocked to see go in the top 10. He might be one of those, like last year with the Red Wings, Moritz Seider. It might be that kind of situation where he kind of jumps like that. And it's all because of his skating and his defensive game. Overall, I think he's a little bit behind Jamie Drysdale. I'd say one tier behind still. But the defensive game might be the one aspect that might be a little better than Drysdale. He's just so good. And then his skating is wonderful to watch. I was watching some of the Five Nations from February, and he just dominates. He can definitely jump in the top 10.
Yeah, and I definitely respect the skating part. He's definitely has an elite skating ability, and I do like that thought. I'm worried about the upside there, and I guess I'm a guy who loves to draft for upside. I love to take chances. I loved the Nikita Papagayev pick a couple years ago because that's a guy who had first-round talent who just had a myriad of issues, and they ended up popping up, and he is what he is now. But I'm always a guy who will pick upside over everything. I'm worried about where his ceiling is. His floor is high, and that's always good. It's always good to have a draft pick with a high floor, but I feel like he's got just like a foot of room of his floor and his ceiling, and I'm worried about what that is. Like, I'm worried about taking him at 10 and then him never turning into a number one defenseman.
Yeah, for sure. It's something you have to worry about, of course. But and I'm kind of on the fence whether or not I can see him as a number one guy. I can see him being a very, very good number two guy. Of course, I think his ceiling, his ideal situation is number one, but I think he fits really well into that number two.
So sticking to defense, there's a lot of players that I'm intrigued by. Caden Guile and Braden Schneider and a couple of the other defensemen that are available that look like they could be available at 17. Can you just explain to me, like, who are some of the players that you like at 17 on the defensive side? There's too many to name for me to just sit here and name them all. So why don't you tell me who are the players you're liking on the defensive side that might be available at 17?
The defense in this draft are going to be super interesting. After Drysdale and Sanderson, there's no really consensus of how it's going to go. So I just kind of based this on my rankings and a few others that I looked at. But Emile Andre and Lucas Cormier, they're actually very similar players that could kind of both be in that range. And they're actually similar to Ty Smith. They're very, very good skaters. I'd say that Andre is probably one of the best skaters, defensive skaters in the draft. Utilizing his edges, he shows creativity, he can weave through the opposition. He's a great passer, and he is often quarterbacking the power play. And yet in his own zone, he's still great. Cormier is kind of that exact same player. You can kind of they can both finish themselves, great shots. And they're also similar in that they're a little bit on the smaller side. Andre is 5'9", Cormier is 5'10", but both of them they make up for it in their skating, and I think both of them could be there at 17. And great choices if the Devils go forward in the first two.
Yeah, I mean, the Devils obviously have desperate need on the defensive side. Cormier is a guy I read a little bit about. Like you said, the defensive side after Sanderson is just chaos. So I've seen so many different rankings and so many different ideas, and I thought Schneider was like locked down. I read a couple rankings. I was like, oh, Schneider's like the third best defenseman, and then I saw Guile go in the top 10 in one. I was like, wait, what? And he went in 28, and one of them I read. So you're right. The next 6 defensemen can literally go in any order. And I wouldn't actually be surprised. And that's actually a lot of fun, though. It's a lot of fun to kind of see chaos. We've seen too many drafts lately where, there's one or two chaotic picks. You talked about Sider last year with Detroit. That was a fun chaos pick. We got to make fun of Detroit for a little bit. But honestly, he's looking like a good pick so far. I mean, he hasn't made the NHL yet. So, with defensemen, they could fall off at any point. So, we have to be you have to temper expectations when it comes to defensemen. But he does look like a good pick. But that is fun to kind of joke about and be like, oh, look at the Detroit Red Wings just trying to stay bad and things like that. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity where a team could fall in love with one of these players and maybe take him before Sanderson. You think that's at all possible that somebody falls in love with a Cormier and takes him before Sanderson with him still on the board?
It's possible. I think, especially in the second half of this season, Sanderson kind of locked him into that number 2 spot. But not too long ago, I had an article on the Hockey Writer about 9 defensemen that could be taken second after Drysdale. So it could be up in the air. I think we're probably at the point where Sanderson is the number 2 guy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he is. It's just hockey GMs in an unconventional year. It's just strange. So the last guy I want to talk to you about is and that's what I talk about specifically, is Seth Jarvis. Seth Jarvis is a guy I fell in love with just watching his highlight tape. It's like watching one of those old like college football tapes where they're just like crushing everybody, and that's what Seth Jarvis did this season. He was just insane. He scored 42 goals in 58 games for the Portland Winterhawks, WHL. He's also worrisome though, because he had 39 points last year. And, he took a while to develop. And there are times where a player makes a massive jump in that draft year because everything's on the line. So what is your thoughts on Seth Jarvis, and what have you been seeing on him?
In my mind, he's a top 15 guy that I can see kind of a team taking a chance on him a little bit higher around the 10 spot. I think some people are even higher on him than that. But he's just, the offense this year just kind of ran through him. He was dominant. And especially as the year went on, he just got better and better. You can look at the year before and say, well, he wasn't that great. But that jump forward, I think, kind of speaks for itself. And he continued to get better as this year went on. So it might just be he might have been slow to kind of get that development, but it's working fast. He's not the fastest player, but he's super agile. He's shifty, and he can turn on a dime. There's so much to like about him that I wouldn't be surprised to see him go high.
So my last question for you, and I really appreciate you coming on, Josh. We've learned a lot about a lot of players, and you're hitting these rapid fire, so I do appreciate that. But I want to know, the Devils don't pick again after 17. Currently, depending on how the Carolina pick shakes out, but basically they're not picking until the 4th round. So, why? Can you tell me a player that you've been studying that you've been doing some mock drafts? Is there a player that you think could fall to the 4th round that could have an NHL ability one day?
Yeah, there's a couple guys I've been watching lately. One of them I was actually just watching yesterday, Blake Biondi. He's playing high school right now for Hermantown, but he also played for Team USA in the Hlinka and looks pretty good. For Hermantown, he was absolutely dominant. He was the best player in the entire league, and he won the Mr. Hockey as the best high schooler in Minnesota, which is a hockey state, right? He makes tough passes. He does it often. Even though he's the best player, he likes to use his teammates. Has a great shot. He's definitely a forward. He's a centerman, definitely a centerman to like. He's still a little raw. There's some things he needs to work on, but he could be a solid value guy down there. And then a defenseman, Luke Reed, played for Chicago Steel. Another good skater. He can move the puck and has potential. He played some big minutes this year. He was on Team USA a couple times and was relied on everywhere he went. There's not a whole lot of offensive upside right now, but he's a defensive guy, and there could be some two-way potential down the line.
Yeah, I mean, those are two interesting names. Taking a high schooler is interesting. That's I can't think of one that off the top of my head where you took a guy just out of a high school league. But you would think that there would be more situations like that, right?
Yeah, and he's a good player. He was actually offered a spot on the national team, and he turned it down to stick with high school. But it worked because he definitely stood out there.
Yeah, I mean, big fish in a little pond. You got to love that. But all right, those are two players I'll definitely keep an eye on. But Josh, I just want to really thank you for coming on. You got any pieces coming up that you're excited about?
On the Hockey Writers, we're actually so the first round mock draft was super popular, so we're working on a second one right now. So there's some interesting picks coming up, and then I'm also working on my final rankings, which come out either later this month or early June. There's some tough decisions to make.
So are you guys picking the second round, or are you doing another version of the first round?
We're doing the second round now.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, Devils fans, ignore that one because we don't have a pick. Well, see some of the guys who might fall and some of the guys who might be interested in. So definitely take a look at Josh's stuff. Take a look at he already worked on the first round stuff, so take a look at that. But Josh, I just want to really thank you for coming on, teaching us about the draft, and giving us some really good information.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Thanks, Josh. That's Josh Bell of the Hockey Writers. You got a great guest tonight. I just was floored. I went out, got myself a sandwich. I asked Facebook Live, should I get a sandwich? But I had to rush back because I was just taking in, just like, how do you know all these prospects? But that's why he's Josh Bell. He knows his stuff. That was a great interview, Nick. Full of details, everything.
Yeah, listen, we have a lot. There's a lot of really smart people in the hockey world that don't get enough credit. I know Tyler Kelly is a guy who's written. He writes for us at Pucks and Pitchforks. He's a guy who I'm just floored by how much he just knows about hockey. And Alex at the Hockey Writers is the guy I talk to all the time because he's the guy that he knows so much about hockey as well. And honestly, I should probably just get him on because I probably avoided it for a while because I feel like maybe our worlds are a little perpendicular, but we've never really been about that, Sam. We just want to put smart hockey guys on and show that we're for everybody. So maybe that's something we'll try to get in the future before the draft, and we'll talk to Alex because I know that Alex is a really smart guy and he's a guy that knows his hockey really well. Josh brought up Alex. So, we got some things in the works, Sam, but, it's always good to keep working and keep thinking of guests. By the way, if anybody out there has ideas for guests, people we want to work on, I'm always willing to listen, and Sam knows, I can usually find a way to contact them. They don't always answer me, but I will try. I will sure try. So if there's somebody you want to hear from, let me know. Or let me or Sam know, and one of us will try to make it happen.
I got a guess that you should try.
Who?
Martin Brodeur.
We're gonna ask. I'm gonna ask. Why not? What's the worst they could say to me, Sam?
Yeah, we're worst that they can say to you is nothing. Or no, or you're not supposed to talk to me ever again.
I mean, that seems extreme, but I guess it's possible. It depends on how I word the email, I suppose.
Yeah.
But Sam, I saw some things in the chat. I believe it was Omar brought up Taylor Hall. Omar said Vinny want Hall back. I think that's about Taylor Hall. I don't know. The comments have been moving today, Sam. We got a lot of chatter in the Facebook chat. I love it. But I did write a piece. Maybe it was to troll everybody in the world, but I also absolutely feel this way. I wrote a piece on all of the reasons why the Devils should re-sign, or I don't know how you consider it. They should sign Taylor Hall in free agency. I think they should absolutely 100% do this. Give him a contract. And I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Well, I thought we started this podcast tonight wanting to fight.
Hey, where's the beef?
But now you're trying to troll me. You want Taylor Hall back in New Jersey?
I absolutely, positively would give Taylor Hall 7 years right now. If it's going for the price I think it's going to go, I think he's going to get a 7 and 7. And I think that's fine. You're going to overpay him for 2 or 3 years.
And that article is on pucksandpitchforks.com?
It's on pucksandpitchforks.com right now. It's not one of those I like to tease ahead, and then I have to keep myself to deadlines, so I make sure I get these articles out to you. But this one, you could go right now. You go while you're listening to this podcast. You can go read why I think signing Taylor Hall to the New Jersey Devils this offseason is a great idea.
But Matt Junio writes, weren't the Devils playing better without Hall?
No, the Devils were playing better. The Devils were playing better once Mackenzie Blackwood started dominating. If you look at their advanced stats show they were playing worse offensively.
I don't know.
Taylor Hall has nothing to do with Mackenzie Blackwood going from an 860 goalie to a 930 goalie.
And you know what? This is what I got out of the conversation with you and Josh Bell, the draft expert. Thought it was very interesting. You guys were talking about goalies and picking a goalie, especially with this deep draft. Picking a goalie. I don't think it's a bad idea to pick a goalie with one of your picks, because if Mackenzie Blackwood, Mac Black, becomes great, and you've got another goalie in the system, you've got potentially chips in your back pocket to make trades. You have that type of depth. It just kind of reminds me of Sean Burke, like Mac Black. Mm-hmm. Tall, very athletic, big goaltender. And then Marty Brodeur comes into the picture out of nowhere, where the Devils traded down. And then suddenly they ship off Sean Burke, who we've had on the Let's Go Devils podcast in the virtual studio. Bobby Holik and all these great players come to New Jersey from Hartford. So that's not a bad idea. It's almost like the gift keeps on giving. Or if the Devils are lucky and the team is gelling, you may have two 1A and 1B type goaltending tandem.
And I'll make one other point on this. I'm still on the fence about picking a goalie, but here's where I'm worried about getting an elite goaltender, Sam, is that you eventually have to give them an elite goaltender contract. And can you tell me just one, can you give me one elite goal contract? Okay, I could give myself one, because Tuukka Rask, I think, is living up to his contract. But besides Tuukka Rask, what elite goaltender is worth the money?
Besides Corey Schneider?
I mean, Schneider is the worst contract in hockey. Is it? Oh, maybe not. There's a lot of bad contracts in hockey, but I mean, Schneider.
I'll take it one step further. Since 2005, new rules, new NHL, different type style league. Do you really need an elite goaltender to win the Stanley Cup? And what I mean by that is the majority of these teams, the goaltender got hot in the end.
Yeah, I think you need two really good goaltenders so you can play the hot hand. I always go to the Carolina model. When Carolina won the Stanley Cup, they started the Stanley Cup playoffs with Martin Gerber. And then Cam Ward took over, and the rest is history. They ended up winning the Stanley Cup. The year we lost the Kings, it's just because Jonathan Quick played out of his mind. He got hot. Brodeur got hot as well. That's how we made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. The reason why we beat Philly, who was the favorite. People forget that. People always bring up the Rangers. The Rangers were not the favorite. The betting favorite after the Philadelphia Flyers destroyed the Pittsburgh Penguins was the Flyers. And we took them out in 5 games because Ilya Bryzgalov couldn't stop Mir Yu on the shootout. So there's a lot of you do need a goalie who can get hot. That's the problem, is that we're paying a lot of these goalies after they have their hot streaks or have like a good start to the career, and they kind of get hurt. I think the way that the game is today is putting a lot more pain on the goalies. I think they're going side to side more. I think they're diving more. I think that they're playing against more skilled players, and it's a faster game, and there's less hitting, and there's more power plays. I feel maybe don't quote me on that because I don't know that part. off the top of my head, but there's just seems to be a quicker game where the goalies are more, the saves they're making are more high danger than they seem to be in the past. So maybe that's putting more pressure on the hips. You saw the hips is what ruined Corey Schneider's career. You got Jonathan Quick now who's a shell of himself. He has a big contract. You got Carey Price who's a shell of himself. He has a big contract. Sergei Bobrovsky, Florida's already hating on that contract. There's not a lot of goalies who signed the big deal. And then there's some. The whole point of this was that Mackenzie Blackwood's deal is up at the end of this season. If you sign him to say 4.5 for 7 years, if you get him to agree to that, I don't know if he'd agree to that because obviously he's playing at elite level, but if you go all in on him and he turns out to be the right guy, you're now getting a $8 or $9 million goalie for half the price. But then it would be really hard to take Askarov. Granted, the Panthers did take Spencer Knight the same year that they signed Bobrovsky. Not sure the thinking there. But there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to the goaltender position. And the Devils have drafted so many goalies. They still have Akira Schmid and Jill Sen and Cole Brady. There's just a lot of goalies, a lot. And they're just one right after the other.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to have to get Mike. We're going to have to play the game real soon.
We're going to have to play the game. Game's going to be
because
fun.
I've been waiting. Yeah, you were hyping it up during our podcast meeting, our production meeting, of course, and you're just hyping it up, saying, "Hey, I'm going to like it." I'm like, "All right, well, can you get off your spiel, Nick?" And I can call Mike Lucci, get him on the no product hotline. All right.
How about you actually try to win this week? Does that work for you?
You know what? How about I just put myself on mute and you talk to the people on Facebook Live and apologize for that comment?
I mean, I'm not going to apologize. You don't get to a place where I am, and you don't. Have you seen my Twitter account, Sam? Have you seen the Pitchfork Puck Twitter account? Does that look like the kind of guy that apologizes? Come on. I probably should more often than I do, but that's okay. Go get Mike. I'll talk to Facebook Live. Facebook's not loading so well right now, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So you go get Mike. So what we're playing tonight is Where in the World is New Jersey Devils? It's just like it sounds. I'm going to sing the song Where in the World is the New Jersey Devils? And you're right, Matt. I did give an unofficial win for Sam last week. But I wasn't going to tell him that while he was right next to me, so I wanted to wait until he was gone. Joe Stanslow, you can never have enough goalies. As long as it takes for them to develop, I tend to agree with you.
I heard that, by the way.
Oh, you're fine. I'd have to remember. I don't remember what Los Angeles got for Martin Jones. I had to remember what that trade was, but that's definitely something that'd be interesting if you can trade those backup goalies. We've seen it before, so it just depends on the guy the Rangers traded that went to the Oilers, Cam Talbot. He's a guy who got them a pretty penny. So it does work to get the backups, and we saw that Georgiev of the Rangers was a guy that was well coveted. They decided to keep him this year, which tells me it might be the end for Henrik Lundqvist. That's what that's telling me. The fact that they kept Alexander Georgiev tells me that there's something in the works with Lundqvist. I don't know if somebody would trade for Lundqvist. His name alone would sell jerseys. It would make them money. It just depends on the team. I don't think a team like Chicago needs to do that. I'm just thinking of the teams that have cap space, but Why would like Ottawa do that? And what would they give up? I don't see the point. And would Lundqvist even suit up for Ottawa? Like what would be the point for him to do that? And like the other teams that have cap space, like Devils, obviously, but there's no way they're trading for another goalie on a bad contract. I don't know. I think that the Rangers are in a weird position when it comes to goalies, and I think that maybe they should have just traded Georgiev. I think that it's obviously better to pick the better goalie, but they have Shesterkin, and Shesterkin's the guy. Shesterkin is so good. So I don't know. I think Sam, I was talking about trading Lundqvist, and I think that the Rangers are trying to make that move, but I don't know if anybody's going to jump at that.
This is how I feel about that. Are the Rangers? I let him play out his contract. If Lundqvist wants to stay, he stays. Because, after seeing Brodeur go to the Blues, living down the sword. But the problem is, he didn't win any cups. So I don't know. That's a hard one. But at the same time, I think Lundqvist deserves to be at least have one more shot at it, even if it's with a different team. I mean, can you imagine if he came to the New Jersey Devils and he wins a cup with us? Oh, that would be awesome. That would be so awesome. Backing up Blackwood. The cup in New Jersey. Anyway. So
I'm moving on from the king in New Jersey. So just push that aside.
We have Mike Lucci from Pucks and Pitchforks blog. He is a writing machine, as what people have told me. Mike, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
So what's going on, guys? Great to be back on the show again. Thanks again for having me. I actually wanted to, I caught a little bit of your Lundqvist conversation. I actually wanted just to touch on that real quickly. I don't have any sources like firsthand or anything like that, but apparently a couple of friends of mine, some family and myself heard some rumblings that two teams were interested in him at the trade deadline last year. One was the San Jose Sharks. The other one, I think, was a team with no shot, like the Blue Jackets or something like that. But he was just dead set on refusing to waive his no trade clause. And I think right now, the divide between Rangers fans and Lundqvist is, you have the sentimental group who feel, he's entitled to do whatever he wants, right after his contract. But then you have that other group who's he's in the twilight of his career. He's trying to win a cup. Just trade him. So that's kind of the divide right now that seems to be going on among Ranger fans. My dad's a Rangers fan. My brother's a Rangers fan. My friends are Rangers fans. So, I've heard that a couple of times. I just wanted to chime in on that topic.
Mike, you need to get a new family.
Yeah, I've always been the black sheep when it comes to sports.
I'll be the black sheep with cups while everybody's drinking off the floor. But all right, let's play the game. Now that I've talked myself in a corner, the game today is where in the world is the New Jersey Devils? So, in front of me right now, I have two things. One, I have a list of American-born New Jersey Devils and the city in which they were born in. Also in front of me, I have Google Maps. So how we're going to play the game today is I'm going to give you this player. I only picked American-born players because I didn't want the numbers to get crazy and one player to really skew it. But I'm going to give you that player. You tell me what you think his hometown is. I'm going to type the town that you give me, and then the amount of miles away from the hometown is your score. But this is going to be like golf. So you want the lowest score. So do you understand?
This is the coolest game you've ever thought of, Nick.
Just to clarify, say we do a player like John Smith. I'm just using like a random name. He was born in Detroit, Michigan. I guess New York City. Sam guesses Phoenix, Arizona.
You have different players.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you one player, then I'm going to give Sam another player, and then, yeah. So we have 10 players. You each get 5, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Mike, you are first up. There was 2 former New Jersey Devils that had very, I want to say, famous birthplaces. So I split them between you two. So, Mike, your first player on your list is Zach Parise. What is Zach Parise's birthplace?
It's in Minnesota. Shoot, I don't remember the town. But
I know it. Sorry.
I think it's close to the Twin Cities, and I'm kind of embarrassed not knowing this because I lived out in Minnesota for a year. So, I'm just gonna say St. Paul, Minnesota.
All right. So he was born in Minneapolis. So, but you're close. St. Paul is, according to Google Maps, to get from St. Paul to Minneapolis is 12 miles. So we're going to add 12 to Mike Lucci's score. So he's the first one with miles on the board. So Sam, the other one
I did that
that's
multiple times.
It's all good. The other one that's
good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Sam, the other one that's obvious is Mr. Scott Gomez. Sam, what is Scott Gomez's birthplace?
There's only 2 cities I know in Alaska. I would say Juneau, Alaska.
Both of you had 2 cities that you could have guessed on your place, and you both answered wrong.
It's not Anchorage?
It is Anchorage.
Oh, I thought that was Mike Peluso, but anyway.
So here's your problem, Sam.
What?
Juneau's really far away from Anchorage.
No, it's not.
Do you want to know how long it takes to drive from Juneau to Anchorage?
2 minutes.
19 hours.
Not too bad. It's like going to Florida. Don't worry, I'll catch up.
All right, Sam. So you add 848 miles to your tally.
I'm just spotting Mike Lucci. Mike, I'm just spotting it. So you can thank me later. Yep.
I thought I gave you a softball there, but all right. So Mike, next on your list is Jack Hughes. What is Jack Hughes's birthplace?
Oh, I know this one.
Isn't it Orlando, Florida?
You got that one exactly right. 0 miles. Orlando, Florida is absolutely correct.
This game is fixed.
I knew he was a Florida man.
He is a Florida man. He moved to Canada pretty quickly, so we're kind of stealing the American right now. But all right, Sam. Now I'm gonna help you out a little bit by saying that you got to remember its birthplace for this next one. What is the birthplace of Kyle Palmieri?
Suffern, New York.
It's Smithtown. So tell me how I spell whatever town you just said.
SUFFERN.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to add 72 miles to your tally, Sam. Closer than last time by quite a lot. But you still have...
I got 3 more to go.
Yeah, you got time. And if if Mike completely botches any of these, you're right in it.
Mike, if you need help, I can help you out.
Sounds good.
All right, Mike. I'm going to give you a hard one next. We're going to ask you, former captain Jamie Langenbrunner, what is his birthplace?
That is how come he gets all the easy ones?
I've literally never even heard of this town.
I know he's another Minnesota boy.
If I can guess it after Mike, I would like to.
You can't. It's not the game.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, isn't he from Red Wing, Minnesota?
Red Wing?
Yeah.
No, he's actually from Cloquet, Minnesota, which is on the other side of Minnesota. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to add 179 miles to your tally, Mike. Same state, at least. You got the state right, which is why this is fun, because you could still get the state and just be so far off. Sam, you still got some making up to do, but I'm giving you, for your next one, Brian Giunta. What is the hometown of Brian Giunta?
Rochester, New York.
There you go. 0 miles for Sam.
0.
Blue. You're going to need them. You're going to need those zeros. So great job just catching it right off the bat. All right. Going back to Mike. Another American. He put on the USA across his chest last year at the World Championships. Played really well. Mike, what is the birthplace of Corey Schneider?
It's in, I think it's in Massachusetts. Is it like, it starts with an M, like Marlborough, Massachusetts or something like that, or Manchester, Massachusetts, something with an M. If there's a town in Massachusetts called Marlborough, we'll just go with that.
If it doesn't exist, you lose automatically.
There is a Marlborough, Massachusetts, but it is not correct. It is actually Marblehead, Massachusetts, which, ironically, is the exact place where me and my wife drove to right after our wedding to kind of do a little mini moon, which with the global pandemic is probably going to turn into our honeymoon. Whatever. But not too bad of a hit. Only going to add 47 miles to your tally. So you still got a monster lead on Sam Blue. So Sam, what's up?
I do have a quick question, Nick. Marlborough and Marblehead, they, you know, when you say them, they sound kind of similar. Do I get any partial credit for that, or?
You're ahead enough. You don't need partial credit.
Fair enough.
You're looking for credit for when this game is obviously rigged. No, I'm kidding.
How is this rigged? I gave you Brian Giunta as your third guess. Whatever. Anyway, you guessed the wrong city in Alaska. Anchor. Oh, whatever. Anyway, Sam, you're a player, former captain, the last captain of the New Jersey Devils, Andy Green. What is his birthplace?
I should know this. It's in Michigan. Now it's a matter of it's this. I think it's this rich town outside of Detroit. I'm afraid that it doesn't exist. It's like something like Farmington, Michigan, or something like that, or Framingham, Farmington.
Do you want to go with Farmington?
Yeah.
He's actually born in Trenton, Michigan, which
That's
I thought
it.
you'd get. That seems like something that it is right outside of Detroit. So you're not far because Farmington is also outside of Detroit. It's on the other side of Detroit, but Detroit's not a terribly large city. So we're only going to add 32 miles to your tally. So, yeah. All right. So, Mike, your last player is Brian Rolston. What is the birthplace of Brian Rolston, an underrated Devil overall?
Australia.
Do you remember where he was born?
Oh goodness.
Australia.
I know. I'm pretty sure he's a Midwest boy. I'm pretty sure he's a Midwest boy.
New Mexico.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Right?
No, it's Wisconsin. But all right, hold on. He's actually from Flint, Michigan.
Oh, okay. I knew it was somewhere in that region.
So, Google Maps is weird. They literally have. All right, so you had 364 miles to your list. Still think you're going to end up winning, but we'll give Sam the last one anyway. Sam, what is the birthplace of Brian Rafalski?
Dearborn, Michigan.
Wow, you got it exactly right again. Another 0, but your performance on Scott Gomez. Let me add this together.
Yeah, but Anchorage and Juneau is like it's the same thing. It should be 0.
How is that? How?
You levied me the biggest state of the union on the first question.
I thought Scott Gomez was the most obvious pick in this entire draft. Anchorage, Alaska. I knew that off the top of my head. I didn't even have to look it up. I looked it up just to be sure, but I didn't have to look it up. Anyway, I'm just trying to calculate this in my head. So it's about 659. I don't know. I'm doing it in my head. It's about Sam. You have 944. Mike, your miles are 659. So Mike, you are the winner here.
You know, had I let me play the music for Mike.
Awesome.
Just to be courteous and not a sore loser. Mike, you won on a technicality. Make sure
No,
you're
he won because Alaska's big and you suck.
No. Now, if you take away Alaska, I probably would have beaten Mike. If you take Mike's biggest blunder, one of those questions, and you take my biggest blunder, I probably would have won.
I don't know if you know how games work, Sam, but that's not how it works.
Well, you know what?
So, Sam, let me ask you this. Let me cross over podcast real quick. When Diaz allows 7 runs in the 9th, did the Mets be like, oh, no, that inning doesn't count. We're going to take the other 8 innings, and then we'll take your best 8 innings, and we'll see who won?
Yeah.
Anyway, Mike, you got a really cool article coming up. We really liked your last one. You got to ask Sam. I've been pumping that one up about the trades you didn't know happened, and it got a little extra play this week too because we shared it on the Facebook page. But you got a cool little situation coming up, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. So the last one did the 5 trades that almost didn't happen. That was actually a really fun piece I was able to put together. The research. The research was really fun, really interesting. There are a bunch of other trades too that I remember hearing about that, I just couldn't find any documentation on them. But the next thing I'm working on, I'm going to do all-time lineups for the New Jersey Devils based on each nationality. So since Devils came to New Jersey in 1982, I think my final count was 50 players from 15 different countries have played for the team. So what I'm going to do, since every single country can't be adequately represented with a full player lineup, I'm going to do all-time lineups for United States, Canada, Sweden, Finland, and then I'm just going to bunch Central Europe and Eastern Europe together. So I'm definitely interested to see what kind of reactions that gets from the fans. So I'm hoping to have that out. Hopefully at some point later on this week. It's actually a lot more writing. It's actually a lot more writing than I realized. But I'm definitely having fun typing that one up.
Well, yeah, we're really excited about that one, Mike. So whenever we get that one in, we'll throw it on the site. We'll pump it out. We'll get it all the Devils fans, and we'll have you on soon. We got lots of pandemic to talk hockey, and I'll just keep churning out these games for y'all to beat Sam.
Yeah, sounds good. I think if memory serves me correct, I'm on a bit of a winning streak over Sam right now. So hope Sam, brings his A game next time.
Oof, those sound like fighting words, Sam. Everybody's fighting Sam tonight.
They're all ganging up on me. Thanks,
well,
Mike.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, guys. Great to be on again. Thanks again.
Thanks. That's Mike Lucci on the Nova Product Design Hotline, talking a little trash, trying to bait me into a fight. But you know what? I'm practicing social distancing, buddy. I'm not going to spit on you. I'm not going to slew foot you.
This got intense very quickly.
Yeah. He brought a lot of heat, but can he take a lot of heat? I don't know, Nick.
I don't know either. It'll be fun though.
So we may have.
I'll do a plug. I'll do a real quick plug. I got a couple pieces that I'm working on. I got a couple in the works. I was doing some stuff for the front page of Fansided. So I literally just wrote a 7,600 word piece. It's Bill Simmons-esque on the 25 highest paid college coaches. Some of them are literally stealing money, but that's neither here nor there. For the hockey side, for the Devils, I'm planning on doing a couple pieces on the draft. And then over the weekend, I want to do a couple pieces on the coaching search. So that seems like it's coming to a head. John Stevens obviously got interviewed. So I'm going to kind of look at the coaches that I think that the Devils should be looking at that they haven't so far. And then also I'm going to do one piece on some players that I think that the Devils should trade for. And they're going to be players on big contracts, but they're going to be players I think will help and will come at a much shorter price. So there's a couple of things that you should be looking up in the pipeline. Most of them should come out early next week.
That's great. Well, should we also, I would just say this, Sunday night's podcast, it's going to be good. Nick, I have a feeling there's something's going to be good with the State of the Fan address very soon. But we're going to keep that a secret because it's going to be a pop-up podcast for the ages. A pop-up podcast for the ages. That's all I can say right now. Because if I say that we have blah, 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 blah on, you'd be like, Sam, I want to kill you.
Yeah. Don't. We won't say it. But let's just say it's very exciting. The person that we're in contact with, and we're working out some details. But once we get those details worked out, this one's for the fans, Sam. This one's going to be fun.
This is going to be one of the biggest podcasts in the history of Devils podcasts. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to tell Facebook Live, Twitter Periscope, YouTube Live, guess who this guest is. We're not going to tell you. You can name names. I'll play the poker face on live air. Is it Marty Brodeur? Is it John Bon Jovi?
It's Santa Claus.
Is it I'm trying to think of New Jersey?
It's Batman. And not my cat.
Biggest guess. One of the biggest guests. Where's the guests? Get the joke? It could be two people.
Could be.
Could be three.
It might be.
Maybe that's the game we play right now with the fans on Facebook Live. The people that have stuff. Who do you think it is? And if you guess wrong where the guest is actually at, Nick will calculate how many miles you're far away. I'm just kidding.
But learn where Juno is.
You know what? He's answering right now, but I'm not going to answer to Scott Stevens because I'm not going. Mum's the word, right, Nick? Mum's the word.
Oh, that must be it.
Mum's the word.
Maybe Scott Stevens should be the next big fish to shoot for. We got everybody else. You got Ken Danico. Ken Danico was the last one. It was the big fish that we were still waiting on. There's a couple others that we'd like. Brodeur's the big one, obviously, but we're gonna keep pushing. We got others. But it's gonna be fun. We're gonna get these players and these coaches and these ex people. I'm gonna try to get somebody from Binghamton. We didn't talk at all about the fact that the AHL canceled their season. That's kind of sad, but I wanted to get somebody on from Binghamton. And I'll reach out to a couple of people this week. Hopefully we can talk to them, just kind of see what their thoughts are now that the season's officially over.
Yep. Well, everybody follow us on our social media pages, Fucking Fit Sports blog, and the Let's Go Devils podcast. We will have a pop-up podcast for the we can't tell you who. Until next time, let's go.